Welcome to the awesomers.com podcast. If you love to learn, and if you're motivated to expand your mind, and heck, if you desire to break through those traditional paradigms and find your own version of success, you are in the right place. Awesomers around the world are on a journey to improve their lives and the lives of those around them. We believe in paying it forward, and we fundamentally try to live up to the great Zig Ziglar quote, where he said, "You can have everything in your life you want if you help enough other people get what they want." It doesn't matter where you came from, it only matters where you're going. My name is Steve Simonson, and I hope you will join me on this awesomer journey.
If you're launching a new product manufactured in China, you will need professional, high-resolution, Amazon-ready photographs. Because Simo Global has a team of professionals in China, you will oftentimes receive your listings photographs before your product even leaves the country. This streamlined process will save you the time, money, and energy needed to concentrate on marketing and other creative content strategies before your item is in stock and ready for sale. Visit simoglobal.com to learn more, because a picture should be worth 1,000 keywords.
This is episode number 101 of the awesomers.com podcast series. And all you have to do to find out about today's show notes and details is jump on over to awesomers.com/101. Now today we begin number one in a three-part series with Luis Gonzalez. And Luis is a peak performance, productivity, and accountability expert, as well as the founder of Soul on Fire Peak Performance Academy. Luis is like an Olympic coach, except for your life. Luis works with wildly ambitious people who have a sense that their potential is going untapped and who are ready to step up to the next level. They're no longer willing to settle, and they are committed to raising the standards in all areas of life. Luis has been obsessed with peak performance all of her life, and her expertise includes incorporating the best practices of neuroscience, behavioral science, mindfulness, and peak performance science, all having the aim of living a life that feels fulfilling versus just simply going through the motions of achievement, simply for the sake of achievement. I really enjoyed visiting and having a conversation with Luis because she has embodied, what achievement is all about throughout her life, and shares some very important stories about her journey throughout these three episodes. But again, this is the first of three episodes. Let's jump right into it right now. Hey, Awesomers, great news. It's me, Steve Simonson. I'm back again with another episode of the awesomers.com podcast series. And today I'm joined by my special guest, Luis Gonzalez. How are you, Luis?
I'm fantastic. Super excited to be here.
Well, it's a privilege to have you here. Now, I've already read in your bio to the audience, so they kind of have the 30,000-foot view of kind of your accomplishments and who you are as a person. But tell us today where you live and what takes up your time on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah, so I'm in Berkeley, California. So hippie capital of the world, probably. And right now, most of my time is spent on my peak performance coaching practice. And then also just making sure that, so I run a couple of companies, as was noted in the bio. So there's Convive, which is an artificial intelligence app for providing the everyday person with a money coach. And then there's the coaching side of things, which is peak performance coaching. And so right now I'm mostly focused on getting that off the ground and building all of the pieces that will have it run the way that I want it to run.
Yeah, so we all have that vision, but sometimes it takes a little work to get there, doesn't it?
There's a lot of work. There's so much work. Yes.
Yeah, well, I definitely appreciate and come from kind of the scrappy startup background for sure. And I got a couple of scrappy startups going right now. So
yeah,
we can commiserate later and maybe we'll get into that in this episode, some of the challenges we face when we're doing startups. So first of all, thanks again for joining us and taking the time. One of the things I like to do in an origin story is really kind of just dive right back into the very beginning and figure out, where were you born?
Yeah, I was born in Mexico. Very proud of my immigrant background. Was born in Monterrey, Nuevo León, which is very different. I remember when we first moved over, there's Monterey, California, and people were like, Monterey, and I'm like, no, Monterrey with a double R.
I like that.
And we moved over when I was 9 to Gilroy, California, garlic capital of the world. You guys should check out the garlic festival, get a chance. And yeah, so a little bit of Mexico, born in Mexico. My childhood is a little bit in Mexico, and then some of it in the very, very, very South Bay.
Yes, I see that. So it's interesting to me that I used to live in Monterey, California as a
Yeah,
kid. There's a military base. I think it was Fort Ord. And so I have a little exposure to that Monterey. And then
yeah,
the Monterey in Mexico or Mexico, we stopped over one time when our plane was running out of gas. We needed more gas.
ah,
So I've been to
yeah.
both the Montereys.
There you
Yeah,
go.
so I feel like I'm part of the story now. So let me ask you this, Luz. You mentioned that you kind of moved over when you're 9. What did your parents do when you were born or when you were coming up in life?
Yeah, that's a great question. My dad, he was doing, maybe he was working for some like branch of some like governmental office or something. And my mom was a stay-at-home mom. And both I actually think that when I think of my origin story, it does start with my parents, but also like goes a little bit before that, right? So my mom was born in the middle of nowhere, Mexico, like middle of nowhere.
I'll try to
The
find that on the map.
exactly, yeah. I'm pretty sure Google Maps will help. The like my mom, a treat for her would be when they had a chicken, and there was 14 kids, so you can imagine 14 kids from my mom's side and 11 from my dad's side, so
Ooh,
lots of family.
we're going
Yeah,
to call that probably Catholic pride right there. Hashtag Catholic pride. Yeah.
yeah. It makes family reunions a lot of fun. And so given 14 kids, when they had a chicken, my mom would get just like the chicken neck. It was that sort of they're slim pickings, right?
Yeah.
And
That's a
so
true version of scarcity, actually.
exactly, yes. And my grandpa, he was the first person, for his little town. He paved the streets. He brought electricity over, and so that's part of my background, where I come from. Like they started a school. They were leading the school. My grandpa was a person outside of his time, I think, because you can imagine in Mexico, women for the most part weren't encouraged to study or anything. And my mom, she was an avid reader from a very early age. She tells stories. She would like climb up a mango tree, and then just hide there and read. And that was her escape. And so at some point, these nuns came over and they were like, wow, this girl likes reading a lot. And so she left to the big city, Guadalajara, where she got a master's in like physics and chemistry. I'm in awe of my mother, right? I know. And my dad's side also, like slim pickings. Like my grandpa died very, very well. My dad was very young, and so my grandmother is just. Can I cuss on this show?
Well, if you really want to, you can. No problem.
I could sort of cuss like a sailor, but I can cut it back.
Whatever you're comfortable with, we'll be fine. Don't worry.
Great.
If I find myself crying later in the shower, I'll send you a terse email. But no, I'm quite fine. Whatever you like.
So like my grandmother would have to feed like 20 to 30 people, and she's a single mom. And so I was gonna say, my grandmother is a fucking warrior on both sides. And so that's the origin story, right? And so both my parents didn't grow up with very much, but they developed grit and a hard work ethic, and then them leaving everything behind, literally leaving everything behind to give their kids a chance at life. I feel incredibly lucky and blessed, and there's a lot for me to do.
Oh yeah, it's those are big shoes to fill, as the saying goes. And
Yeah.
this is one of the things that I do find very telling about origin stories is, it's where you came from, and all of that. They put you on a path, right? Where you're
Yeah.
going is the most important thing, but the sacrifices, the efforts that all of your prior generations put in, each one trying to incrementally move the family forward, so to speak. I think that's quite inspiring. I've got an idea. Let's take a commercial break, and we'll be right back after this.
Catalyst 88 was developed to help entrepreneurs achieve their short and long-term goals in e-commerce markets by utilizing the power of shared entrepreneurial wisdom. Entrepreneurship is nothing if not lessons to be learned. Learn from others, learn from us. I guarantee that we will learn from you. Visit catalyst88.com because your success is our success. Hey, giddy up.
Your mom with the high education, what did your dad end up doing, did you say?
So my dad also, he studied in Mexico. He went to undergrad for mechanical engineering.
Uh-huh.
He didn't graduate. He's a little bit of a contrarian, but he just engineer brain. So I grew up with him as a dad and just working on math problems or like Lego sets or puzzles. So engineering. He is very much an engineer's brain.
That's fascinating. And then did your mom parlay the education into something specific, or how did that work?
Yes. So, after she got her master's, she went back to her small city, again, middle of nowhere, Mexico, where she was teacher. And so she was teaching for some time. And then the whole way that my dad and my mom met is actually a very funny story. But so at some point they moved back to Monterrey, and my mom became a stay-at-home mom at that, stay-at-home woman at that point.
Sure.
Which I think was more common, especially, being in Mexico and in that time for women. And sometimes, I think of the sacrifices that the women of an earlier generation to mine, or earlier generations, made so we could have the sort of opportunities that we've had. And I look at my life and things I've been able to do, and the sort of limitations that my mom had just for being a woman, and that I think that spoke into her. She studied, she worked her ass off, and nothing wrong with being a stay-at-home mom, but I know that had society been different, she could have done so much more.
Well, yeah, and this is one of those things that regardless of whether that she wanted that or didn't want that or whatever, she was able to take all that knowledge, it's all equity in her mind, and help raise you guys in a way that would be more enlightened and more ready for the world. And so
Yeah.
Regardless of how that actual education is deployed, her natural curiosity to
Yes.
subjects is physics and science, or something, did you say?
Chemistry and physics.
Chemistry and physics, the two hardest things in my world. I can't imagine.
I know. I'm just in awe of my mom. She's a badass.
That's crazy stuff. So, how about any siblings? Did the whatever the dozen kids are on average parlay into your generation?
No, it didn't. No, it's three of us, and for the longest time, so for 7 years I was an only child, and then my grandma told my mom, "You need to," because my grandpa was an only child, so my grandma says she can't be an only child, and so then my sister was born and my brother was born, so a little bit of an age difference, but yeah. It's I'm really glad to have siblings.
For sure, yeah, that's fun. So they're probably just doing a rough off-air age guesstimate. I'm going to say they're still pretty young.
They're younger. Yeah. My sister just had a baby, so I just became an auntie, and that's been a lot of fun.
Nice.
And they're all in the South Bay, and I get to see them. I'm going to see them not this weekend, but next weekend.
Well, like you said, amazing family reunions when you have family either close by or a lot of it.
Absolutely.
I come from a fairly large family myself, so I've been there with you as well. So now, how about university? When you were starting to get further on in your years, did you go to university?
I did, yeah. So I think that part of the origin story is when we moved from Mexico to the United States, when we first moved over in Gilroy, there were the first place that we lived was like 21 people in one apartment.
I assume it was a 10,000 square foot luxury palace type apartment.
Yes, it was a castle. I forgot to say that.
Yeah, I assumed.
Yeah, just a small apartment, not in the nicest part of town. And my mom is this incredible woman where she would have us she would walk us to school, and she would have us stand on this tree stump thingy, and she would have us like say, "I am a champion," blah blah blah. And it was just beyond her, just like my grandpa, beyond her time. I don't know where she got this.
That's amazing. Morning affirmations for the kids before school.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
She's ahead of her time for sure.
Mm-hmm. And she had very high expectations. So I was expected to get straight A's. And because of how well I did in high school, I got a lot of scholarships. I got a full ride to UC Berkeley, go Bears, and studied international political economy in Berkeley. Always, my obsession, as long as I can remember, has been around impact, global, meaningful impact. And so thought that by studying international political economy, I could start getting closer to what that would look like.
Yeah, I can understand that. So, and how did you like that university experience? It sounds like it was something that you enjoyed. Do you care to delve into that further?
It was great. It was very formative. It was my first time not living with my parents. They're super strict, but it was fantastic. Just learning a little bit of everything. What would be most formative about undergrad? I got to travel a lot. I got to live in Paris for a semester.
Sounds exciting.
So that was awesome. And when I was in Paris, I traveled around quite a bit. I finished a semester early, and during that time off, I went to The Hague, to the Netherlands, where I was the court monitor for the Charles Taylor case, so very prominent case of ex-president of Liberia. And while I was in the Netherlands, got to travel quite a bit again, and just especially the traveling while I was in undergrad. I think that's probably one of the most formative experiences. I was part of Model United Nations, so always this interested in international impact. And so, but I think that seeing the world on a very low budget, but seeing the world really impacted just the way that I would conceive my world, and where I wanted to play going forward.
Yeah, I can see that. I definitely think that the Osmers who are exposed to travel, particularly on the international level, are exposed to so many different cultures and so many different just ways of living.
Yeah.
That your perception, that narrow perception really widens up, and you're like, oh,
yeah,
I don't really know anything about anything, right? And that's definitely something that I find to be super valuable. It sounds like you had the same experience. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to start talking about, what happened after undergrad, and, any kind of proper jobs and things like that happened along the way. We're going to do it right after this break.
Perfect.
Hey, Amazon Marketplace professionals. This is Parsimony ERP, and we get one question over and over. Can you please tell me exactly what Parsimony does? Well, we'll try, but this is only a 30-second spot, so we're going to have to hurry. Connect to your Seller Central account and pull all the new orders. Enter the orders with all customer data. Enter all of the Amazon fees and charges. Store them at the item level. Generate profit and loss reports at the SKU level. Automatically generate income statements. Handle multiple companies. Handle multiple brands. Handle multiple currencies. Facilitate budgets and forecasts. Store all customer interactions in a sophisticated CRM system. Manage your supply chain. Project and task management. Maintain an audit log. Hey, you get it. That's Parsimony, PARSIMONY.com. Parsimony.com. We've got that.
Okay, that's part one of this 3-part series with Luz Gonzalez, and we're going to come back tomorrow with part 2 and get into more of these sorts of details about, her journey and what she went through, and some of the, both the triumphs and the obstacles that stood in the way. This is, as always, one of the most important things about an Osmer story is to figure out, the ups and downs that an Osmer goes through. Everybody always thinks when they see somebody who's from the outside, they look successful, they just assume everything's always rainbows and unicorns, as I like to say. But of course, it's not always like that. So we really appreciate Luz joining the show today. Remember that this is episode number 101 of the Osmers.com podcast series. And all you have to do is run over to osmers.com/101 to see today's show notes and details. Well, we've done it again, everybody. We have another episode of the Awesomers podcast ready for the world. Thank you for joining us, and we hope that you've enjoyed our program today. Now is a good time to take a moment to subscribe, like, and share this podcast. Heck, you could even leave a review if you wanted. Awesomers around you will appreciate your help. It's only with your participation and sharing that we'll be able to achieve our goals. Our success is literally in your hands. Thank you again for joining us. We are at your service. Find out more about me, Steve Simonson, our guest, team, and all the other Awesomers involved at awesomers.com. Thank you again.
Awesomers.com